Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. Today we're going to learn about the surprising mission of the Jew. You see, what the Torah is not merely a book of stories, entertainment, a history of which the book of Genesis is far more compelling and far more interesting than the book of Leviticus, for example. No, the word Torah means life guide. It means a coach. It is the template for which we will experience success, fulfillment, and prosperity, where we find the fulfillment of our mission in this world. So when we read the stories of the Torah, especially the stories of our patriarchs and our matriarchs, it's then that we will find within them the lessons that we need in order to flourish, to prosper, and to succeed. How much more so the Rabbi tells us when it comes not just to the regular patriarchs, to the patriarchs, but even to Yaakov, who is the content of this week's Torah portion. Yaakov is known as Bechir Sheba'avos. He was known as the most special of the patriarchs. So when we enter into the stories, into the narratives of his life, that's what we're going to discover a tremendous amount of depth, of resource about our purpose in this world. In the Torah portion this week is Parshas Vayetzei. We encounter Yaakov, page 175. We start off with Jacob running away from his brother Esau, who's trying to kill him. He goes from Beersheba in the south of Israel. He goes to Haran, which is way up north in the Iraq region. There he works for 20 years. He works for his father-in-law, not the nicest guy on earth. He meets his father-in-law Laban. He marries his 4 daughters. That's 4 wives that Jacob has. It's quite a complicated love pentagon. Forget the love triangle. Yeah, love pentagon. A lot of marital issues going on in the Torah portion. And yeah, I can't imagine who the therapist of that marriage would have been. Wow, that would have been interesting, right? And then at the end of the portion, he returns back home. He's making his way back home with his 4 wives and now 11 children. The 12th was not yet born. We can learn volumes about our life, about our purpose in this world from this Parsha, Vayetzei. And it's so counterintuitive. How many of us live our lives just wanting to experience tranquility, just wanting to find peace? But folks, today we're going to have to burst that bubble, because that is not what it's all about. Let's analyze what happens here. I want you to take a look at what happens at the beginning of today's Torah portion. Parshas Vayetzei on page 175. Jacob left Beersheba and he went to Haran. He came upon the place, Mount Moriah. He spent the night there because the sun had set. He took some of the stones of the place and he placed them around his body and his head. And he laid down in that place to sleep. He had a dream. He beheld a ladder standing firmly on the ground, its top reaching upwards to the heavens. The angels of God were ascending and descending. And behold, God was standing over him, and he said, I am God, God of Abraham, your forebear, and God of Isaac. That's his dad. I will give you the land upon which you are lying, to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. It's interesting. It doesn't say as numerous in the original text. It just says as the dust of the earth. You know, Maimonides explains what that means. To be your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. You know what it means? Your descendants. It's amazing parish from the Rambam. The Rambam says that just like the soil, everybody tramples over it. Everybody abuses the soil. Mm-hmm. But ultimately the soil buries all of its abusers. So too are the Jewish people. That's the blessing, says Rambam. Anti-Semitism will drive you bananas. Mm-hmm. Every nation in the world will trample and tread on you. You will be like the sands of the earth, but like the sand that ultimately buries all of its abusers, the Jewish people will ultimately triumph over all of the anti-Semites. The one thing that is consistent about anti-Semitism throughout all of history, anti-Semites never fail to fail. Never in the history of the world have anti-Semites succeeded. They always rise, they rear their ugly head, they try, but they always inevitably fail. Yes, your question, Menachem.
What are you saying, dust or sand? Does it really matter?
Dust. It says afar. Afar means actually avak is dust.
Oh.
Afar is earth. How will you translate afar, Abba? Dust or earth? Avak is dust.
Avak is dust. Earth.
That's earth. That's the question. Is it earth or is it dust? Soil. Afar is soil. Afer is ash. And avak is dust. Why they translate dust? That's why you can't rely on a translation, by the way. This is the reason why you cannot rely on a translation. I mean, something as fundamental as what I just explained in the interpretation of Maimonides. I mean, you can't pick that up in a translation, right? But it's a good catch. Anyways, the dream continues. Your descendants will be as the dust of the earth, and you will spread out powerfully to the west, to the east, to the north, and to South Florida. Doesn't say that in the text, but yeah.
That's what they meant.
Yeah. And all your families on earth will be blessed through you and through your descendants. Behold, this is a pretty cool dream, by the way. Right? Behold, I am with you. Wow. Imagine God says, listen, I'm with you. Right? Imagine you're about to embark on a massive campaign, a massive project. Imagine you're about to erect a $25 million building. Imagine. Right? Imagine you're about to do that, right? And it's actually real. Imagine if somebody wants to build a skyscraper, right? And he's like, oh, intimidated, a little lacking in self-confidence. And God comes to him in a dream and he says, I'm with you. You're not alone. Right? I will protect you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land, for I will not neglect you until I fulfilled what I promised Abraham concerning you. Over the page. Wow. That's pretty cool. So Jacob awoke from his sleep and he said, God is truly present in this place, yet I was not aware of it. That's a nice observation. You know what Pharaoh did when he had a dream? You know what Pharaoh did when he had a dream about the 7 cows, fat cows, thin cows?
Brought in Joseph together.
Not so fast. He woke up. He realized that he had some divine revelation, and then you know what he did? He went straight back to sleep. And he had a second dream. That's a Pharaoh, right? That's Pharaoh. Here we're talking about Jacob. Jacob was like, whoa, he's in awe. And he says he became afraid. Now, the word is afraid. I don't know about the word afraid. I would say the word awe. Vayira means awe. I think it's a bad translation, my personal opinion. He became in awe, and he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gateway to heaven. Many shuls on the ark there, right? These words, this is nothing else other than the house of God and the gateway to heaven. Jacob rose early in the morning, took the stone. Okay, now that was the first thing I wanted to share with you. Let's contrast this with a revelation that he has upon his return. Let's take a look at the very end of the Parsha, page 199, at the very, very end of the Parsha, when Jacob is coming back from his 20 years of struggle, trauma, and suffering in the house of his father-in-law. Let's take a very look at the very end of the Parsha, 199, bottom of the page. We can read the maftir. Lavan arose early in the morning. They finally struck a deal. He kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. Then Lavan left and returned home. Jacob continued on his way, and angels of God went out to greet him. When Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's encampment, and he named that place Machanaim, and thus ends the Parsha. Now, the Zohar makes an amazing observation. The Zohar makes an extraordinary observation. When he goes out of the land of Israel, is he more holy or less holy?
More holy.
Of course he's more holy. When he comes back from 20 years in the diaspora, in the house of his wicked scoundrel father-in-law, whose name was Lavan ha-Arami. Lavan the Aramean, the word Aramean, Arami, has the same letters as Ramai, which means a liar, a swindler. Now when he's coming back 20 years in the house of cheating and lying, the house of changing the deal, you would think he's more holy or less holy?
Less holy.
You think he's less holy. Yet the Zohar points out that when he leaves the land of Israel, what kind of divine revelation does he experience? Only in a dream. He has to fall asleep, to lose consciousness, because he's not able to receive the angels in a state of being awake. Remember, Abraham sees angels when he's awake. Moses talks to God when he's awake. It says about Moses, no, I didn't speak to him in a dream. I speak to Moses straight up. That's the greatness of Moses, right? What? Mouth to mouth, God says, I speak to him. Not in a vision and not in a metaphor. It was straight up, face to face, right? You know, it's an amazing medrash. Rashi is amazing. Rashi. It says that during the plague of Korach, there was a plague going on, and they brought the Keturah. It was a plague. The plague. The angel of death was killing the people, the tribe of Korach, the followers of Korach. And Aaron, the brother of Moses, comes up with the Ketores, with the incense, by Moses' command. So he brings the incense and he confronts the angel of death. It's known the incense is that which stops the angel of death. It's known. So he confronts the angel of death, and Aaron says to him that that's it, no fly zone for you. You can't keep on going. So the angel of death is very upset. He says, "You come sent by Moses. I'm sent by God." Says the angel of death to Aaron, the words of the teacher and conflicting with the words of the student. Who should I listen to?
Student.
What? No.
Why?
The teacher. So Aaron's response is unbelievable. It's quoted in Rashi. He says, well, good point. God and Moses are standing right there. Let's go over and ask them. Can you imagine? God and Moses, they're like right over there. Right? This is the degree of Moses. When Yaakov leaves the land of the Israel, Beersheba, the holiness of the land, the house of Isaac, there God reveals himself to him in a dream. Right? He had to get to a holy place. He had to go to Mount Moriah to come to the revelation, and that appeared to him only in a vision. However, when he returns, they're coming to him. He doesn't have to go to them. They're coming to him, and it's not in a state of unconscious, subconscious. It's in a state of awake. That is a sensational revelation from the Zohar, when the Zohar is telling us that apparently the mission of the Jew is not to stay in the cocoon, the insulated cocoon of serenity, of safety, and of peace. Oh no, ships are far safer in the harbor. They're far less likely to sink when they're in the harbor. But a ship in the harbor serves no purpose. Ships weren't built to stay in the harbor. The purpose of the ship is to go out to sea. Yes, it's dangerous, and it might sink, and it might get hijacked by pirates. Yeah, it might hit the Bermuda Triangle, but that's not the purpose of the ship to stay in the harbor. It's got to go out there. And that is what the Zohar is pointing out to us. The mission of the Jew, what the template that we learned from Jacob, is don't stay in your saintly cocoon. That's not where you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to stay in yeshiva your entire life. You're not supposed to stay holding on to mommy's apron strings. You got to move out, pay the rent, get a car insurance, get a job, struggle through the challenges of life, because that is where you're going to find your ultimate purpose. And this is the trailblazing path that Jacob teaches us. He leaves the yeshiva to go to deal with an evil and cunning businessman. This ties in perfectly to what we learned yesterday about Tohu and Tikkun. We learned that who was higher, Jacob or Esau?
Esau.
Esau is higher because Esau has the
potential.
We learned about who's higher, an animal or a human.
Who's higher?
It depends.
In our plane, we learned yesterday that the human is higher than the animal. But who feeds who? Who nourishes who? The animal nourishes us. We become strong when we eat our vegetables, right? All right, it's the animal kingdom that supports us, right? Popeye the Sailor Man, right? You got to eat your spinach, right? When you eat your spinach, that's where you get your muscles, right? We are sustained by the lower, because the lower you are, the higher you originate from. That's the power of Tikkun, of Torah, of Tikkun. And this is what it means. Staying in your insulated cocoon, the tent of Torah, is Tikkun. It's a very healthy, nice, easy place, no challenges. But venturing out from the yeshiva to Wall Street and to Main Street and to the halls of the United Nations and trying to figure it out, that's where you're going to experience the purpose for which you were placed into this world. Now, what's interesting is that Jacob goes out there, and it says that in his negotiations with his father-in-law at the end of the parsha, he says, the beginning of the parsha, it says, "Vayishkav b'makom hu," and he lay to sleep in that place. What does it mean he lay to sleep in that place? The Medrash says here he slept. He got a good night's rest. At the Bethel, the beginning, yeah. But the next 14 years he didn't sleep. You know why he didn't sleep? Because he was in the yeshiva of Aver. He went, before he made it to Babylon, to Iraq, he first stopped off in the yeshiva of Hashem and Aver, and there he studied Torah for 14 years without sleeping, day and night. Didn't get into pajamas. He didn't have a bed in the dormitory. He just learned Torah day and night, and if he had to put his head down, he put his head down, but he didn't get a good night's rest. In addition, he tells his father-in-law in the negotiations at the end of the parsha, he says, "Vatidad shnati meinai," and sleep was escaping from my eyes, because for the 20 years that I served you, that I worked for you, I did not sleep also. Now, we can understand, very much we can understand why he didn't sleep while he was studying Torah, right? Fine, because he was working really hard. But when it comes to working for his father-in-law, why did he not sleep? He was a day laborer. He wasn't working day and night. He was a day laborer. From here we learn a tremendous insight that the Rebbe points out to us about what exactly Jacob was doing in this place. He wasn't just leaving the Holy Land. He was descending into a pit of corruption. You see, at the very end of the parsha, Laban tells Yaakov, he says, "You can't just leave." He says to him something quite amazing. He says, I'm trying to share with you what he says. He says over here, here. Go to page 197, at the very bottom of page 197. An amazing thing that Laban tells Yaakov. It's very easy to miss it. Laban responded and said to Jacob, this is at the middle of the negotiations at the end of the parsha. He says, what does he say to him? The daughters are my daughters, and the children are my children. The flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. He says, the kids are mine, and the money's mine.
Everything you have in mind.
What Jacob is up against when he's in the house of Laban, he's up against a guy who wants just two things from him. I just want, when you go out to South Africa, to Palm Beach Gardens, when you leave the cocoon of New York City, 770, Jerusalem, and you go out on shlichus, right? You know what you're going to have to engage with? You're going to have to engage with a culture that they want two things from you. The education of your kids. The sons are my sons, the daughters are my daughters. And the flocks are my flocks. The money is mine. They want control over your business endeavors, and they want control over the education of your kids. In other words, you want to be an oisvarf. You want to be like a weirdo. You want to be a weirdo that's like engaged in spiritual matters, fine. But don't corrupt the next generation. Send them to our schools, educate them in our systems, immerse them in our culture, right? And then when it comes to money, you want to be spiritually connected to God, fine. We won't bother you. But when it comes to financial arrangements, you must subscribe to our values, in the culture that we live in today. This is very dominant in South Africa. In South Africa, well, very much in America too. How important is college today in America?
Now it's getting more questionable.
Right. Let's say before October 7th.
It was always very
Before October 7th, how important was college, going to college?
very important.
If you didn't go to college, you were like child abuse. If some parent didn't give you some prepaid college program, it was like child abuse. It means nobody loves you, right? If you had to pay for your own college, Nebuch, right? Yeah, Nebuch, fine. Like, poor guy. But obviously you have to go to college, because there's no way you could possibly survive without Ivy League, Stanford University, Columbia. Columbia is the bastion of morality.
NYU.
Ethics, right? Integrity, values. You can't possibly be a mensch if you don't go to college and university. This is what Laban is telling Yaakov. He's like, Hatson Soni, the flock is mine. The money that you got, all on my terms. You cannot possibly make money if you don't go to college, right? This is the place that Jacob was immersed in, and that's why, of course, now after October 7th, we've learned that all the buildings that carry our family names. Our parents gave $10 million to name the Goldberg Hall, and that's which is having the students for justice in
Hamas,
Palestine. Right, the pro-Hamas rally is happening in the Goldstein Hall.
What Arabs gave to build buildings.
Oh, because Qatar gave
They gave way more.
4 more zeros, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, so where am I going with this, folks? This is why the Rebbe explains. This is why the Rebbe explains why Yaakov couldn't sleep. He couldn't sleep when he was studying Torah for 14 years on the way to Haran. He couldn't sleep because he needed to prepare himself spiritually. But he couldn't sleep when he was already there because he needed to be on constant vigil to protect himself, his wives, and his children from the corrupting influence of his father-in-law, Laban Arami. Arami, remember, Aramean has the same letters as Ramai, which means scoundrel or wicked. And that's why Jacob answers him. He says in this negotiation, Avadaticha 14 shana, I worked 14 years for you, Bishtei benotecha, for your 2 daughters, B'shei shanim betzonecha, and 6 years with your flock. What he was trying to say, he wasn't just giving him a profit and loss statement. He wasn't just giving him an invoice saying, I've worked 14 years for your daughters and 6 years for the flock. He was saying why I worked. I worked so hard without even sleeping because I was in constant vigilance, because my point was to protect the children from your corrupted education values. And I protected the flock, the management of the business, from your corrupted values on education. Yes, Mordechai, what's your question?
Wasn't Yaakov a slave to his father?
No, he was not a slave.
Okay.
No.
Slave.
So back to the story. So let me just wrap this all up and
So I
say,
have the question to ask you.
okay, what's your question?
Okay, on page 177, it says Jacob awoke from his sleep. In the next sentence, he said he became afraid.
Okay.
Can you comment on that?
Yeah,
I think I learned somewhere about the word afraid. He was afraid because he didn't realize the place he was sleeping was holy. And that's what he was afraid of. Not
what? Why is that a reason to be afraid?
I don't know, Rashi, yeah, that's what it says in Rashi.
What does Rashi say? Let's see. This is very good, very scholarly. I got Rashi comments coming. This is good. Where's the verse over there? It's 17, right?
17.
Let me look up the Rashi. Hold on.
Then he
Became
said the
afraid.
next word, he says awesome. So he knew he was awesome. It wasn't that he was afraid of God.
18.
Well, right before that, it says, yeah, I did
In the
not-
pasuk it says, "Vayira vayamar mani ra makei mazeh." What do you mean? He explains.
He said,
He
"I
was
don't know."
he was in awe, and he said, "How awesome is this
Right.
place?"
He realized.
Why would you be afraid? What's the reason to be afraid of? What is he afraid?
I think he was afraid because it was a holy place and he was sleeping there.
Why is that a reason to be afraid?
Well, Rashi says, paragraph
My father will say
before-
something. Hold on.
I'll tell you something about it. I'll read it in Hebrew only. This is very powerful. Verse 17. ויקץ יעקב משנתו ביום, אכן יש השם במקום הזה ואנוכי. לא ידעתי.
Okay, he's shifting the punctuation.
He saw now what's happening in heaven. He saw that the throne of Hashem has got 4 legs. It's got an image of an eagle, an image of an ox, and
I'm turning the computer.
also an image of a human being. Who is the human being that is there? That's Yaakov's image. Yaakov's image.
So there's 4 steps. There's 4 corners to the throne of God,
Yes,
and one of them is the image of a human.
but he said that when you read it like that, not in the tropes, but they read it, "Ve'anoch," and I'm also on this throne. לא ידעתי, I never knew that. If that's the case, מה נורא המקום הזה? How fearful is this place?
Fearful.
מה נורא? How awesome.
Awesome.
How awesome is this
It's not
place?
fearful, it's
How
really more
awesome,
awesome.
yeah, awesome.
So I think my father's supporting what I'm saying.
Yeah,
He's saying
yeah.
when he realized
How-
that
how
he
holy.
actually has a space, he has a place in the throne of God. I think he was like blown away, right? Interesting. So look, I just want to say to you, this is consistent with my position that I don't believe that a person has to be afraid of God, and I don't believe that you have to be afraid of your parents, right? There's kabedet avi, there's mora av va'em, and there's kibud av va'em. You're supposed to honor your parents, and you're supposed to respect your parents. Now, some people translate the same word. They translate the word as a fearing. Am I supposed to be scared of my dad? What am I supposed to be scared of? That's going to hit me over the head with a baseball bat? I mean, that you got other problems, right? If that's what you're worried about. It's not fear, it's respect. It's respect. He was in awe.
It shows up in the sitter too, and I always read that as awe, not fear.
Exactly. You should read it as well. It's very, very off-putting to say that God wants us to be afraid of him. Because in English, we understand the meaning of these words. Respect is a very nice word, but fearful, like, imagine if I got up on the podium and I said, everybody here should be afraid of me. Like, oh, what? Like, who talks like this? Like, it's ridiculous, right? Anyways, I just want to finish up with one point. How does Jacob manage to succeed in the faraway land? We learned that the mission of a Jew is to go into the place of corruption, and that's where you're going to experience your destiny. Remember, Vayetzei is the name of the parsha, and he went out. The point is not to stay home in the safe space in the harbor. The point is to go out, Vayetzei. That's what you're supposed to do, right? And that's where he experienced his spiritual elevation. Remember, in the land of Israel, he was an individual. He comes back from Iraq with an entire family. He's got a nation that he's built already. And he's an extremely wealthy man. Where does he become wealthy and successful? With health, wealth, family, nacha, success. Where does he find all of that? That all happens when he goes out on shlichus, when he goes to his mission, not when he stays home in Bnei Brak, stays home in the house that he grew up in. He's got to leave. He's got to go out of the comforts of his original home, and he's got to find a place. But in order to be able to succeed against the dangers, the hurricanes, the spiritual hurricanes of the place that he goes to, he had to have three preparations. Number one, he had to make sure that he was immersed in holiness. He's coming from the land of Israel. There in the land of Israel, he was an innocent man, a dweller of tents. He spent a lot of time immersing himself in holiness and Torah study in the land of Israel. He was in the height of holiness. In other words, you can't just say, okay, I'm ready. No. You gotta marinate for like a little while. And I give you an example of that. That's exactly what we're doing right now. As you're about to go out to the day, right? You've already experienced the cocoon of Torah this morning. We davened together, we laid tefillin, we learned Torah, we argued a little bit, right? Sometimes we'll even say l'chaim, right? This is the beginning. This is Jacob preparing to go out. This is what we're doing every single morning as we begin our day, just like Jacob. The second thing he did is that he went to study Torah for 14 years. And he didn't just sort of casually check in and out on weekends, didn't check himself out on Shabbos off in order to go visit uncles and aunts. What he did was he stayed there for 14 years and he didn't let himself sleep. He was immersed in Torah study. That's what we're doing right now, guys. We're pushing ourselves. We're learning Torah. Look at this guy. He's got a chayenu in his hands. And he's quoting a Rashi. I mean, 5 years ago, would you believe that you'd quote a Rashi in a Torah conversation?
Rashi does say that.
It's amazing. It's amazing. This is what we're doing. We're learning Torah. He takes it with him when he travels. He's still arguing with me.
No, it's not an argument. I want to ask you a point.
No problem.
So before he said he was afraid, that Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, really, the Eternal's presence is in this place, yet I did not know. Rashi says, yet I did not know. For if I would have known, I would not have slept in such a low place.
Wonderful.
Why? Why would he not have slept?
Because it's also such a holy place.
You don't sleep in a shul.
If you knew,
I'm asking him, why?
if he
Only
knew,
during the rabbi's sermon.
if he knew that God was standing right there, would he have fallen asleep? Of course not. So he was like, wow, this is unbelievable. I'm not trembling with fear.
Maybe the fear.
I'm overwhelmed with awe about the holiness of this place.
That's the better language. Overwhelmed.
How come all these years they didn't change that word?
Because the people that translated the Chumash, they either didn't speak a good, they probably spoke good Hebrew.
Today.
I don't know. I don't do this. Don't talk to me.
This is a new book.
I'm going to do another one eventually. One day when I have enough time and money, I'll be able to do that. What? I'm going to run a publishing house. What?
Even in here it says that.
Because they copy it.
Yeah, they copy it. Yeah. Anyways, finally, the final preparation he did, folks. The final preparation, guys. It says, Vayivga b'makom. This was at the very opening of the parsha. The second verse of the parsha, it says he came upon the place. Rashi points out, what does it mean, Vayivga b'makom? It means Loshin Tefillah, that he prayed. In other words, Jacob was the first one to daven Ma'ariv, right? It was nighttime. He was the first one to daven Ma'ariv. Abraham started the prayer of Shachris. Yitzchak started Mincha, and Yaakov started Ma'ariv. You know why Yaakov started Ma'ariv? The evening prayer. Listen, he had 4 wives. He had 12 kids. You know what I mean? How are you going to survive? You have to check out once in a while at nighttime. You know what I mean? Okay, so Yaakov starts the evening prayer. From here we learn this is how he prepares himself with prayer, with Torah, with immersion. And when a Jew does this, kind of preparation, when number one, he knows what his purpose is in this world is. Number two, he prepares himself properly to confront the forces of darkness. Instead of complaining and kvetching, God, why is life so hard? That's not what you're supposed to say. It's hard? Good. That means you're on the mission. It's like the soldier in Gaza who calls his commander and he says, they're shooting at me. That's why you're there. Knock them out. Don't complain. Don't look for a therapist. Shoot them back. That's what you're supposed to do, right? That's what a Jew is. When you understand what your mission in this world is and you prepare yourself properly, that's when you experience what the Torah tells us. And the man was prosperous exceedingly. He experiences divine revelations and success in his materials endeavors, to the point that when he returns home, he experiences the revelation of God coming to him, not that he has to go to God. And the angels are vayifgeu bo malachei Elokim, and the angels seek him out. Shalom, and have a great day. Yeah.
On page 175,
Yeah.
in the promise and the blessing that God gives Jacob, he says to him, I'm going to protect you.
Yeah.
But in the Porsche, we find that Jacob's a little worried about that protection. He doesn't trust God.
Why? Where was he worried? Where did he say he was worried? He wasn't worried.
Well, with Laban,
He made a deal at the very beginning. He made a deal and he knew that God was going to protect him.
well, that's my point. My point is,
Where did you see that he's afraid? You know, there is one part that he's afraid. There is one part, and that's beginning of next week's Parsha. Beginning of next week's Parsha. You are correct.
Well, no, but even in this one,
Page 202.
sentences 20 and 21. After God made him the promise, he says, Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and will protect me on my journey.
That was the deal. He made a deal.
No. Well,
God
what do
said,
you
"I'm
mean
gonna
if? He
protect
just
you."
told you. This was God that just told you. You're saying, well, if he's going to do all this, then okay.
Why do you say if? Why do you say if? The word if means when in Hebrew.
I'll tell you what it
Means when.
The Midrash says, that tells us very simple, that Yaakov said, I'm afraid Hashem give me the blessing, but if Chas v'sholem I will do an avera, then what happens to him?
He was worried that he's going to mess it up.
that he did it.
Right? You know, there's another interpretation. You could say, "Katointi mikol hachasadim mikol ha'emes." Next week's parsha it says, "I am humbled by all the kindnesses that God has done to me." In other words, he thought that maybe he finished his account. Maybe he finished his account. And a third thing I want to tell you, and this is a big question that I have: Jacob's fear is the antithesis of bitachon. Next week's parsha, when you confronted Esau, it says he was afraid. That is the antithesis of bitachon. The Rebbe says that Jacob, in fact, was afraid of Esau when God had already promised that he would protect him. My interpretation of what happened over there is that Jacob was blazing the trail for the gate of trust, for Shari B'tachon. The tracht gut vet sein gut principle, think good and will be good, is something that we learned from Jacob's error. In other words, it didn't exist at that time. He opened the floodgates. He took down the dam walls to allow that principle to take root. Anyways, have a good day, everybody. Shalom and a happy Thanksgiving.